found that it was just incredibly challenging to raise enough philanthropy to support that on a long-term basis. With, having been a product developer, I understood that products, particularly new technologies, new markets, take a lot of time. You need professionals with enough job stability to work that problem over a long enough time. And there just didn't seem like philanthropy was super well matched to that, at least in like hardware tech development. And came up with this idea that, well, maybe if we held on to where we started as a camping product and marketed that in parallel while we were, maturing the developing market side of the business, that could kind of be sort of an internal self-financing arm. And so we could raise a bit of venture capital for a hybrid model, but stretch it 2 or 3 times as far, because the first piece of that model would generate cash flow relatively quickly. And then the second piece, we could buy more time to break it enough times to eventually get it right.
Welcome to AI Powered by People, where we explore what happens when products and brands gain voices shaped by your interactions. I'm Sarah Nagel, and we're exploring a world where everyday items become your companions, learning from you and answering your questions. Each episode will explore products and brands through the eyes of consumers and industry experts, and we'll chat with AI companions that bring these experiences to life. Today, we're stepping into the world of BioLite, a brand on a mission to bring energy everywhere. From backcountry campsites to off-grid homes in Africa and India, BioLite designs innovative gear that cooks, charges, and lights our world. They operate on a unique principle of parallel innovation, where sales of their recreational gear for outdoor enthusiasts directly fund their work in emerging markets. This hybrid model allows them to tackle one of the world's greatest challenges, energy poverty, by creating a self-sustaining, mission-driven business that's changing millions of lives. For founder Jonathan Cedar, it all started with a simple idea: a cleaner burning camp stove. But what began as a fun engineering challenge with a coworker quickly became something much bigger. As he explains, a bit of research uncovered a global problem of staggering scale, completely reframing the project and setting the team on a new path.
BioLite started as a night and weekend project while I was working at Smart Design with you, Sarah. And the guy who was the senior model maker, my co-founder, Alec Drummond, came in one day and said, "Hey, I want to make a wood burning stove that burns super cleanly with a fan." And he had this kind of funky example of someone who'd done something like that in the past. But as we started working on the project, there were a couple of really interesting revelations that made me get a lot more serious about it. One was just a bit of a fascination that if you burn wood the right way, you can actually burn it, really cleanly and have a performance that feels a lot more like gas than like a smoky, crackling campfire. And that was just kind of like, from an engineering standpoint, really interesting. And then the other piece is, as we were researching this topic on advanced wood combustion, got exposed to the global challenge where half the planet still cooks on smoky open wood fires, and the smoke from those fires kills more people every year than HIV, TB, and malaria combined. And that, first of all, was kind of shocking given the lifestyle I was living in New York City, to think that there were still folks for whom, a campfire was their daily meal. But moreover, just felt like a massive opportunity to put to work the skills that had been invested in me for an issue that just felt so important and so under-addressed, and that there might be a technical solution.
That was Jonathan Cedar, founder and CEO of BioLite. He has guided the company from a weekend project to a global enterprise, delivering clean energy to millions. As BioLite expanded beyond cooking and into the world of portable power, they found themselves competing with another pioneer in the space. But in the wake of the pandemic, a unique opportunity emerged, not to defeat a rival, but to join forces. Here's Jonathan on the acquisition of Goal Zero and the strategic thinking behind it.
Coming out of COVID, there were, like all of us, we all kind of inflated during the COVID pandemic from a revenue standpoint, and then deflated on the backside. And while none of us got out of that unscathed, BioLite sort of survived it in a proportionally healthier place than some of our peers, and it presented a really interesting opportunity to join forces with a brand that we had admired for a very long time over the prior couple of years, started to directly compete with as we'd um, unleashed our own power stations to compete against Goal Zero in the market. And what we saw was, man, Goal Zero was a fierce competitor. Like they had really great product and really great brand, and we had this incredible moment of opportunity where rather than um, being two small hardware businesses kind of partially working in competition with one another, we could join forces and really try to own that off-grid energy space more comprehensively with a higher performing, broader product portfolio.
In the world of product design, innovation is often seen through the lens of new features and better technology. But for BioLite, true innovation goes much deeper. To serve communities living on a few dollars a day, a great product isn't enough. You also have to innovate the business model itself, finding new ways to make that product accessible and affordable.
Innovation is not just product; it's also how you come to market. So it's marketing and financial innovation. I think this shows up most in our Africa markets business. So to date, BioLite has delivered first access to energy for about 15 million people living beyond the reach of the grid. 60% of our customers live below their national poverty lines. And up until the time of Goal Zero acquisition, it was the larger, as measured by revenue, and also more profitable piece of our business. So, for us, these sort of harder to reach markets have been the core of what we've been working on. And what's very interesting is, yes, of course, this is grounded in an amazing, affordable, durable product. Um, but it also requires that you can reach people for whom there are not retailers who currently serve them, that you can deliver the product in a way that allows customers to pay it down over their avoided expenses for other energy sources in their market. And so it's really only when you can get fantastic product that can work with a delivery and financing system that you can actually get all the way to impact.
I bought the BioLite CampStove for my outdoor trips. It doesn't weigh much. It needs very, very little time, so around 5 minutes, in order to boil 1 liter of water.
Running headlamp is the best headlamp I've ever owned. It's not only comfortable and really lightweight, but I feel incredibly safe wearing it while running at night.
And I use it at places like Coachella because you're doing a lot of camping, you're staying there, you're not really trying to stay at a hotel. So my friends and I will get like a huge tent and cook our food and stuff underneath it and have a good go about it.
BioLite is a brand I really love and have been using for a while. The first stove I bought was the CampStove 2, which I love because it turns sticks into power. Then we got the site lights, and my kiddos love those because it makes our campsite feel super cozy.
Serving two vastly different customer bases, the weekend camper and the off-grid family, presents a unique design challenge. The technology needs to be advanced and desirable for the recreational market, but also incredibly durable, affordable, and practical for daily life in an emerging market. This requires deep, nuanced understanding of both worlds.
Some mistakes that we made in the early days where we said, we're going to make one product because we can only afford one design cycle and it's going to serve both customers. And what we oftentimes found was you'd usually miss for both, or at best you would hit for one and miss for the other. And that led to a lot of sort of disappointment within the organization. So from a product research perspective, we're very clear about, are we serving the African off-grid customer, of which there's a fair amount of diversity even within that, customer profile, or are we serving the outdoor recreation market customer?
A brand's connection with its users is often its greatest asset. And for BioLite, with its incredibly diverse community, this dialogue is vital. Whether it's a thru hiker in the Appalachians or a farmer in Kenya, customer insights offer invaluable direction. The voices of their users, their questions, experiences, and economic realities directly influence every part of the business, from the financial models they build to the products they design.
I think it's very easy, coming from having been a product developer, um, to come in and say, well, this is a product problem, right? Like the current products just aren't good enough. And I think what we've found, actually pretty more often than not, that we found that the gating factor for energy access in developing countries has been financial structures, right? Like, how do you offer credit to a consumer who doesn't have credit history, who has very low income, who might have very um, uneven income throughout the year? Most of our customers are farmers, so they sort of have a cash flow negative period of the year when they're planting and tending, and then a very big cash spike. Um, how do you figure out how to service a customer whose economic needs look like that? And so we spent a lot of time trying to figure that side out. And so I think one thing is to have a very inclusive definition of innovation, and one that doesn't assume the physical product is the beginning and the end of that conversation.
Using a BioLite product connects you to a larger story. The headlamp lighting your trail is built on the same technology that's lighting a child's homework for the first time. Each piece becomes a silent partner in your adventure, while simultaneously empowering another across the globe. But what if that innovative stove or solar panel could actually share its stories or answer your questions? We asked people what their BioLite gear would say if it could talk.
I definitely ask my headlamp if it's enjoyed all the journeys and adventures we've had together. Through camping and running and hiking. Did you catch things I didn't see? Have you enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed our time together?
This might sound a little strange, but I'd ask my camp stove about its family. I'd be like, so, what are your cousins cooking in Kenya tonight?
A lot of the headlamps used in the past were pretty bad. Sort of like rubber bands with rocks strapped to them and sort of flopped around. They're really clunky. And so yeah, I'd love to talk to it about why it's so balanced and sort of what went into that from a design standpoint. I think that'd be fun.
If BioLite's products could talk, what do you think your different customers would want to talk with them about?
I think the recreation market side is, I feel like there's sort of two forks in how our customers make decisions, right? It's obviously a technical performance driven market. And so I think there's a lot of trying to correctly interpret I know I need a headlamp, but why this headlamp versus that headlamp versus that? Because there's, 25 models of headlamp on the REI peg wall. And it is something that the industry really is challenged by, is how to make that technicality accessible. Because you need the technicality to maintain credibility with the core audience, but then probably like 75% of the consumers who walk in are not core and not technical, and I think can find that very off-putting, or they just pick at random at the price point that they want. So I think I could see engagement that was maybe more like, this is how I show up when I go outdoors. Tell me why you're the right choice. I think on the emerging market side of our business, I think it'd be much more about trust building, right? Because these are really significant economic investments for those customers. I always try to think about what is sort of a transaction that I might think about with a similar degree of care, as our emerging markets customers who make $1,000 a year might think about this purchasing decision. Our products cost, call it $100. So we're sort of saying 10% of your annual income, for our lowest income customers. So I think there it's much more about um, assuaging risk that I'm getting it wrong, right? That I'm parking my dollars in a place that won't yield savings, won't be durable, won't be supported. So I think there it would be much more about talk to me about your customer service. Talk to me about what happens if something goes wrong, how I know I haven't taken my scarce resources and parked them in a place that puts me in a hole.
How might talkable gear or AI in general impact how BioLite connects with its customers, creates products, or tells stories?
So like the number of users we interface is always one of the big limiting factors for us. Um, I think maybe using AI to help us see relationships between comments in a faster way, particularly as you start to get into sort of like hundreds of user intercepts. Some of the pattern recognition, all of the pattern recognition is still very manual. I bet there's ways for AIs to take larger end user inputs with more qual input, because I do think like a lot of the time where we get things wrong is we lean on quant, which I often find kind of devoid of real insight. I think it builds false confidence. I think usually like design insights for us come way more from the qual than the quant. And being able to, somehow push the N of users up and then find those qualitative points of commonality.
What if you could have a conversation with the product that started it all? The original BioLite CampStove is more than just a piece of gear. It's the embodiment of a wild idea that sparked a global mission. We wondered what stories it would tell, what wisdom it might impart, so we gave it a voice. Hello, CampStove. It's an honor to speak with the product that started BioLite on its mission. When people first light you up at the campsite, what's the experience you hope to create for them?
I hope they feel a sense of wonder. First, there's the fire itself, the dancing, smokeless flames that are mesmerizing. It's the warmth that draws people in, the centerpiece for stories and shared meals. But my real hope is that they feel clever and resourceful. They've just created a powerful fire not from a heavy fuel canister, but from a few twigs they found on the ground. It's a moment of pure, simple self-reliance.
That's a beautiful way to put it. But you do more than just create clean fire. Can you explain that other little bit of magic that you perform?
My secret power. I'm a tiny power station in disguise. While everyone is focused on the flames, I'm quietly taking the fire's extra energy, heat that would otherwise disappear into the air, and turning it into a current. It's enough to bring a phone back to life so someone can capture a photo of the sunset, or power a light so the evening can last a little longer. I love turning waste heat into useful power.
That technology is amazing, but I know your story goes even deeper. What's the part of your identity that most people enjoying a weekend outdoors might not see?
That's the most important part of who I am. For every one of me that's roasting marshmallows at a campsite in Colorado, I have a sibling product, a home stove, in a kitchen in Kenya or India. We share the same DNA, the smokeless combustion, the electricity generation. So, while I'm providing a bit of fun and convenience here, my twin is fundamentally changing a family's life over there, eliminating toxic smoke from their home, and giving them access to light and charging for the very first time. I'm not just a product. I'm a promise that a good idea can serve everyone.
This has been fantastic. Thank you for sharing that powerful perspective. By giving voice to the gear that accompanies us, we uncover a deeper story of innovation, resourcefulness, and a mission that connects us all. The original CampStove has been with you from the very beginning. If it could talk, what do you think it would say about you?
So we're very loyal. I think it would raise questions about gut versus research, or like the alchemy of a hunch versus picking a category and combing through and trying to find the opportunity. Like CampStove was the world's most wild shot from the hip and maybe we're just dumb and lucky that it worked. Like, I don't know that you can take a ton of those and keep winning, but it is obviously our longest standing product, but continues to find audience and be productive year after year after year, and create that sense of fascination in a way that I think the products that come more from a place of user research, I find get eclipsed more rapidly and require more kind of constant hamster wheeling to kind of keep them on the forefront of the category. So, um, I think CampStove would say thanks for trusting your gut. There was no logic that said we deserve to exist, and yet you did it. Um, and I think the challenge that I would ask for our business is how do we find and trust those moments more often? Because I actually am one who believes that these observations are not fully predictable, and so how do you put yourself out there and keep yourself open and grab them when you find them, versus putting yourself on a really rigid calendar of innovation, because it's not a 1+1=2 kind of thing. Like there's got to be like a little bit of spirit inside of it to be interesting.
We're curious to hear your thoughts. What would you ask your BioLite stove if it could talk? Share your ideas with us using hashtag #AIPoweredByPeople, or reach out to us on social media if you want to hear from your favorite products or brands. And remember, it's your voices and stories that will shape the future of AI. This is Sarah Nagel, and you've been listening to AI Powered by People, a podcast brought to you by Verve Labs. Special thanks to Jonathan Cedar from BioLite, and to the members of our outdoor community, Elise, Michael, Ava, Rachel, and James. This episode is produced and edited by me, and our fully charged researcher is Annalise Larson. Join us every Tuesday to learn more about the brands and products you love, and what they might say if they had a voice.